just the other day, Disney had their earnings call. A lot of YouTube channels are covering this. There's a lot of information from all sides of the internet as to what all of this means for the company. There's lots of numbers being thrown around. The problem with numbers is that they can be obfuscated in any which way to make a company look good or bad, depending on what your intentions are. So we got some articles. A big one that's coming from the mainstream press is talking about the 700,000 subscriber loss that Disney Plus had. Well, other people are pointing out that Disney Plus actually gained subscribers when it comes to the US and Canada. All the numbers, it's very confusing, but I think when you take the 30,000 foot view, you have to ask yourself, has Disney made Disney Plus a really, really great streaming service for people to want to go and flock to? Think about the original projects that have come out from there. So the argument that I'm seeing made from most people is that they have combined Hulu and Disney Plus numbers to make Disney Plus look more attractive than it actually is. But if you look at just Disney Plus and you look at the likes of The Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, Agatha, is this a streaming service that really feels like it's a place that's a go-to place for entertainment?
Hey,
it doesn't.
You were a fan of the Agatha series.
I was the only person.
For full transparency.
I was the only straight male who got any enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, you thoroughly enjoyed the other lesbian witch show. It got really hard to keep track at a certain point because The Acolyte was a lesbian witch show, but they were in space. But then the Coven,
not the space witch, not the lesbian space witch is just the lesbian Earth witches.
Right. So you had the lesbian space witches and then the lesbian Earth witches, and everything just got really crazy for a while there.
I'm just going to give you a basic breakdown of how they listed these numbers so you guys can get an understanding of what they mean. So in their most recent earnings call for the first quarter of 2025, of the fiscal year 2025, the company reported a net decrease of approximately 700,000 subscribers, bringing the total down to 125 million from the 125.7 million it had the quarter before. Domestically, Disney Plus subscriptions increased from 56 million to 56.8 million in December of 2024. However, international subscriptions declined from 69.3 to 67.8 million during the same period, indicating a loss of 1.5 million subscribers. But the thing is that they had great growth when it came to Hulu, which added millions of subscribers. And that really is the long and the short of it. What I think is funniest about it is that they spent all of this money to get Hulu, and all of the money to buy Fox, and they don't like Fox shows. They don't like to put any emphasis on, like, say, the Searchlight production stuff or any of their original projects. Yet that's the stuff that actually gets people to sign up. Like, they're making money off of Hulu documentaries and old Fox shows that are all full season complete series over there on Hulu. If you look at the actual, the operating income for Netflix and Disney, that's like after their expenses have been, after all expenses and after like depreciating assets and stuff, the stuff they write off. Netflix makes almost as much as Disney does just on streaming compared to what Disney makes entirely.
With the parks, with their theatrical releases, everything combined. Wow. Netflix is like I make the joke all the time, but Netflix is not to be fucked with. Yeah. Like, they're not. Well, if you're the first to do it, you're just always going to be at the top. Yep. I could be surprised years later, but I don't think that Netflix is going to be toppled by a different streaming service anytime soon. Yeah. Because they just had the right timing and the right momentum. It's 7 every week. Every week, Samba TV releases their series. Sometimes it'll be 6, but 7 of those 10 top releases are all Netflix series. Like what we're going to be talking about today. They're in the Oscar running for a movie that's about as nuclear as you can be right now because the actor ended up being persona non grata. Call me pretentious, but even the idea that a Netflix original movie would be nominated for an Oscar seems preposterous to me. Yep. In the chat, Ray and R says PCC needs to bring on Valiant Renegade for further analysis. I texted him today. Yeah. I was like, hey, I'm an idiot. Can you give me the
the lowdown on. So that's the thing when you go through all of these types of topics, right? So depending on where you're getting your information, they're going to give you the headline that best suits them. For most of them, even Variety, they're not going to admit it, but a headline that looks bad for Disney is good for them because industry insiders will click on it because they want to read about it, and people that hate Disney will read about it because they want confirmation bias.
Well, I don't think that Variety was framing it as a negative thing. They mentioned here that they had another profitable quarter.
Yes.
And you can thank Moana 2 for that. You can thank Deadpool for that.
Again, Fox. Just remember, Fox. Yeah.
Well, are there any others that come to mind that would be
Inside
on Hulu?
So that's the thing about Hulu. So
Inside Out 2 was another.
Was Disney, but when it comes to Hulu, most of that just comes from the documentary series and the fact that people go there to watch old stuff. And the fact that they get first look. So I like those two shows. I liked Murder in a Small Town and I liked High Potential, both of which have been approved for season 2s. And those are shows that they broadcast on Fox, but then they go immediately to Hulu the next day. Mm-hmm. So they're getting a lot of terrestrial television first looks at shows that are also on TV, but then come immediately to streaming, not when the show finishes its season.
I just remember back in 2019, and it was so lucky that they launched Disney Plus the year before COVID. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I feel like it would have been it would have just burned to the ground. But they released it in 2019, and I remember everyone was so excited about it because it was the place where you could just watch all of those nostalgic movies that you grew up with.
Yeah.
And ever since then, every time that they've made an investment for a Disney Plus original show, it's just been either completely irrelevant, like nobody had ever heard of it, like some Pixar limited series that no one cares about.
Well, they only did the one. They only did the one. They only
like if it's a higher profile project, it's like The Acolyte, and it causes way more problems for them than it solves. It's been universally garbage. And then when I think about Hulu originals, I'm remembering I really enjoyed The Act, which was a Hulu original. I really enjoyed The Dropout, which was another Hulu original. The Bear, yeah, exactly. So it's just hit after hit when I'm thinking about Hulu.
It's funny because when I think of streaming services with original content, Hulu's not one that comes to mind.
But theirs is really good.
It's funny because
from what I've noticed,
I mention to people all the time. I say if you want the two best streaming services right now, it's Hulu and Amazon Prime. If we're talking about pure selection, but when I talk about both of those, for me personally, they're not for originals. They're to watch old stuff that has been cataloged and then just dumped on those servers.
But they're saying they want to make Disney Plus profitable just as its streaming service by adding value to it.
Yeah.
By making original content that people want to seek out.
Only Murders in the Building, also very popular.
On Hulu? Yeah. That's a Hulu original?
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen so many people talking about that.
Yep. And that's not in talk about the docuseries. That when I think of Hulu, I think of the fact that they had an Astroworld documentary up the day after it happened. How I Caught My Killer, Betrayal, Impact, all these the Fox Hollow murders. They love that stuff, and that's the type of stuff that
true crime is also doing really well on Netflix,
which benefits them because that's your female audience. The women are going to love the docuseries about true crime. The men are going to look for the original, the original scripted content.
Well, the men are looking at ESPN, which is also wrapped up in these bundles.
Yes, that is also true.
We have another 20 from Pop Culture Junkie. There is a fairly substantial rumor that Netflix had hired the person who did the questionable Oscar campaigns for Harvey Weinstein as a consultant for their campaign for Best Picture. Lots of swag sent out.
I believe that.
I don't know who that person is. I haven't heard about that.
I believe that. They also did they did Prey, which was the Predator movie, which actually ended up being a darling amongst YouTube critics who it's
Seriously?
It's a prequel to the Predator series.
No, I know, but I remember we reviewed that.
We didn't like it, but a
It was
lot of the people in this space really, really enjoyed that movie.
That's insane.
So and they have 2 of those coming out this year, a sequel to that and an animated. So look, Disney Plus, if I was to guess, it's that Hulu is gold for advertisers and Disney Plus. Look, just imagine you're an advertiser and they're like, hey, you can advertise on The Acolyte and Agatha and all of these series that get a quarter of the numbers. Remember when I did the numbers on a random Netflix show that nobody had ever heard of, and it was like a quarter of a quarter of a quarter of that viewership as far as hours watched, right? Like that. Who are you more likely to go to? Over to Hulu with the likes of The Bear, or Only Murders in the Building, or any of these docuseries. Remember, not everybody has the premium package. Most people these days seem to be shying away from the premium package for these streaming services anyways, in favor of ad-supported, because streaming services are so expensive now. Not to mention these streaming services want to funnel you there anyways because they're cracking down on password sharing. That's the other thing. The reason why Disney was expecting to lose so many subscribers, remember, like, despite the 700,000 subscriber loss, it's not unexpected. They were expecting that to happen because they just had a price hike right before New Year.
Disney is price hiking and pulling a huge shrinkflation on everyone.
Yeah, like that's a big part of it.
They're literally adding air to the bag of potato chips that is Disney Plus with everything they add to it. And also rug pulling by adding something to the service and then taking it off silently so that everyone forgets about the failure.
There's a lot of reasons why. Look, I don't think that it's the end of the world for Disney Plus or for Disney. I think that they're going to keep, you know, what do they always say? It's like they funnel money back and forth from one column to the next. It's all one big Ponzi scheme. Okay, it's not a Ponzi scheme. It's all one big mishmash of numbers and conjecture that we'll never actually know the true count of anything. But it is interesting to hear Bob Iger, because it's like his job to be shoved in front of a camera and try to make all of this stuff seem like the best stuff in the world. But next year's slate for movies, look, as far as Marvel goes, I don't have the faith in Marvel that people would probably want to have after the year they had before, given that they only had one Marvel movie and it was $1 billion film. Do I have any faith that Captain America is going to make $1 billion? No. Do I think the Fantastic Four movie could be good? Yeah, I do. The trailer was encouraging to me. Do I think that anybody cares about Thunderbolts? Not really. Fantastic Four, maybe that does good, but I don't know if I believe that Thunderbolts is going to do all that great. I could be completely misreading that situation, but we will have to wait and see. But we put a poll up, ladies and gentlemen, before we're done today. We'll check it out and see what you guys say. But we asked you guys, do you have Disney Plus? If I was able to, I would have asked to specify, did you get it through your phone provider? Which is how most people seem to get it these days.
Oh, that's true.
So they get it through Verizon or something. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.